During a Senate hearing in early 2026, Senator John Kennedy questioned multiple witnesses about immigration policy, constitutional interpretation, and social media rhetoric. The hearing included testimony from acting DHS Secretary Chad Wolf, immigration policy analysts, and advocates with differing views on the Trump administration's enforcement approach. Kennedy's questioning covered several topics: why he believes many Democrats support open borders, whether local governments can use the 10th Amendment to ignore federal law, and whether a witness's social media posts contained hyperbolic statements that undermined credibility. One exchange focused on posts describing deportation policies as ethnic cleansing and a population purge. The witnesses provided varying responses. Wolf stated that some oppose immigration enforcement and would like to see more voters in the U.S. Another witness declined to characterize deportation rhetoric as hyperbolic, arguing that proposals to deport 100 million people or U.S.-born citizens justified strong language. The exchanges revealed partisan divisions about immigration enforcement, constitutional federalism, and appropriate rhetoric in policy debates. Watch how Kennedy opened his questioning.
Secretary Wolf, thank you for your service. Why, in your opinion, do so many, not all, but so many of my Democratic colleagues believe in open borders?
Well, that's a good question. I think it's a couple of different fronts. One, it would be they don't believe in immigration law. They don't like enforcement. They don't like removing of individuals. And they believe that there are some that believe that anyone and everyone should be able to come to the U.S., whether they apply for protections under U.S. law or not. And then there's some probably that would like to see more voters in the U.S. as well.
Ms. Vaughn, some of my colleagues, for whom I have great respect, believe that the 10th Amendment allows local governments to ignore federal immigration law and implement sanctuary policy. The Supreme Court has ruled that racial quotas represent a pernicious form of racial discrimination. Can local governments ignore that ruling under the 10th Amendment?
Well, the 10th Amendment is about...
Can just answer my question.
The 10th Amendment is about commandeering, and so it's not really appropriate to this because...
Is the answer yes or no, ma'am?
Could you ask me again? Because I don't understand the relevance to... I'm sorry, I don't... Because ICE is not asking
Secretary
them
Wolf,
to do
you
that.
heard my question. Under the guise of the 10th Amendment, can local governments ignore a Supreme Court ruling?
I don't believe they can.
Okay. Women have the right to vote in America by statute and by constitutional interpretation. Under the guise of the 10th Amendment, can local governments just ignore that and prohibit women from voting?
No.
Okay. Mr. Duke, you worked for President Biden and Vice President Harris, didn't you?
Yes.
And I listened carefully to your testimony today. You expressed, you offered the opinion that the One Big Beautiful Bill is terrible in part because it will cause deficits. Is that right?
Yes.
Isn't it a fact that the profligacy of President Biden caused 9% inflation in America?
No.
Okay. Isn't it a fact that if President Biden had discovered life on Mars when he was president, he would have immediately sent it money?
I don't believe so.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Well, I appreciate your newly found fiscal conservatism.
Senator Kennedy's characterization that so many of my Democratic colleagues believe in open borders represents his framing of Democratic immigration positions. No major Democratic office holder has advocated for eliminating all border enforcement or immigration restrictions, positions that would constitute open borders in a literal sense. However, there are significant partisan differences about enforcement priorities, asylum policies, and pathways to legal status. Acting DHS Secretary Chad Wolf served in the Trump administration from 2019 to 2021, including as acting secretary from November 2019 to January 2021. His characterization that some Democrats would like to see more voters in the U.S. suggests that immigration policy positions are motivated by partisan electoral calculations, a claim frequently made by immigration restrictionists but disputed by immigration advocates who argue policy positions are based on humanitarian and economic considerations. Kennedy's questions to Ms. Vaughn about the 10th Amendment tested whether she would apply federalism principles consistently. The 10th Amendment reserves powers not delegated to the federal government to the states or the people. Kennedy's examples, Supreme Court rulings on racial quotas and women's voting rights, are areas where federal constitutional law is supreme and states cannot nullify federal requirements. The comparison to sanctuary policies is more complex. Immigration enforcement is a federal power, but the Supreme Court has held that the federal government cannot commandeer state and local officials to enforce federal immigration law. States and localities can decline to use their resources for federal immigration enforcement, though they cannot actively obstruct federal authorities. This distinction between non-cooperation and obstruction is where legal disputes arise. Kennedy's questions about fiscal policy to Mr. Duke, who worked for the Biden administration, shifted to partisan economic arguments. They claim that Biden's profligacy caused 9% inflation references the period in 2022 when inflation peaked at approximately 9.1% year over year. Economists debate the causes of that inflation surge, with factors including pandemic-related supply chain disruptions, energy prices, fiscal stimulus from both Trump and Biden administrations, and Federal Reserve monetary policy. Kennedy's joke about Biden sending money to life on Mars if discovered represents rhetorical humor rather than substantive policy critique. Duke's acknowledgement that he now opposes the one big beautiful bill on fiscal grounds prompted Kennedy's comment about newly found fiscal conservatism, suggesting hypocrisy in former Biden officials now criticizing spending. Watch how Kennedy's questioning turned to social media posts by Mr. Beer.
Mr. Beer, you seem to be a very smart guy, and you seem to be a nice enough guy.
Thank you, Senator. You seem smart as well.
Jack.
Don't
That was the chairman, not me.
Don't you think your hyperbolic statements undermine your credibility?
What hyperbolic statement did I make?
On February the 11th, 2026, you posted on Bluesky, quote, my words, or your words, not mine. The Democrats' video telling service members to ignore illegal orders didn't go far enough. They should have also urged them to refuse unethical orders, whether illegal or not. There are many things deemed legal that are still obviously unethical, and everyone should hold themselves to this higher law, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
I believe you did. Do you disagree with it? You think people should do unethical things in their capacity?
On December the 31st of 2025, you posted in front of God.
But wait. Do you disagree with what I said?
Let me finish my question.
I'm sorry.
Answer it, sir. Sure. In front of God and country, you said, quote, they, referring to Republicans, think they can troll their way into us accepting ethnic cleansing, end quote. Your words, not mine. Did I read that correctly?
That was in regard to a Department of Homeland Security post about advocating 100 million deportations. That is what DHS has tweeted from their own account. 100 million deportations would be ethnic cleansing. You would be removing 1/3 of the country. So yes, there are people within the Department of Homeland Security.
And you don't think this is hyperbolic? Give me 30 more seconds.
I think advocating 100 million deportations is
I'm having fun here,
ethnic
Mr. Chairman.
cleansing.
On February 5th, you quoted you said the following on Bluesky.
Your time's up.
These are all good, but there's no enforcement mechanism. I'm sorry. Let me try a better one. On March 2nd, you said, quote, if you rule against Trump's population purge agenda, no hyperbole there, the nativists will name you, threaten you, and come after you. These judges are much braver than the ICE agents who hide behind masks while violating the Constitution.
They are much braver. They put their names on their rulings, and they stand behind their their constitutional rulings. When I talk about population purge, I'm talking about the fact that they're trying to deport U.S.-born citizens, people born here. They are trying to deport them as well. So it's not a mass deportation agenda. It is also an agenda intended to reduce the population of the United States, including U.S.-born people.
Thank you.
These are not hyperbolic statements. I appreciate you reading my account. I appreciate
Here's
your
the good
research.
news.
What planet did you just, wait a minute, Mr. Chairman, what planet did you just parachute in from?
No. Hey, guys.
You trigger my gag reflex, Mr. Beaver.
So we got a process here, and it's good to know you don't have an agenda.
Beer's December 31st, 2025 ethnic cleansing post, according to his explanation, responded to a DHS social media post about advocating 100 million deportations. The undocumented population in the United States is approximately 11 to 12 million, all foreign-born residents total, approximately 47 million. A figure of 100 million would necessarily include U.S. citizens. Whether this constitutes ethnic cleansing, the systematic forced removal of ethnic groups, depends on whether policies target people based on ethnicity rather than legal status. Beer's defense that the administration is trying to deport U.S.-born citizens refers to documented cases where U.S. citizens have been detained by immigration authorities. A 2020 study found that ICE detained approximately 1,488 U.S. citizens between 2012 and 2018. Whether these represent systemic targeting or identification errors remains contested. Kennedy's responses, "What planet did you just parachute in from?" and "You trigger my gag reflex," represent rhetorical dismissal rather than substantive rebuttal of Beer's factual claims. The hearing revealed partisan divisions about immigration rhetoric and constitutional federalism. Wolf's claim that some Democrats want more voters represents a Republican talking point about immigration motivations. The 10th Amendment discussion established that states cannot nullify federal constitutional requirements, though sanctuary policy legality remains contested. Beer's defense of his posts depends on whether DHS actually advocated 100 million deportations and whether U.S. citizens are being systematically targeted, verifiable claims requiring investigation. What remains contested is whether Beer's characterizations reflect actual policies or rhetorical exaggeration. We cover congressional hearings and oversight regularly. If that's something you're interested in, subscribe to stay updated.